You know, ladies and gentlemen, there's a hit movie out there, and it wasn't produced in Los Angeles by a Hollywood production company. It's produced by conservative and conservatives, and our friend Matt Walsh. And the movie's called Am I Racist? And it's absolutely hilarious. Unfortunately, Matt, I got injured and I didn't get to go into the theater, but I've seen these clips. And people say it is absolutely hilarious and fantastic. Welcome to the program. First of all, let's get into the nitty-gritty here. It is not easy to make a movie. You have to raise the funds. You got to do production and direction and all the rest. How did you pull all this together?
Yeah, you're right. It's harder than I thought when we first started getting into making films. You know, our first film was What is a Woman, about gender ideology, similar kind of style of documentary for a different topic. And once you get into that, and especially with this film, we're putting it in theaters, and it's in theaters right now, and you start to recognize that these big Hollywood studios have, you know, a lot of enormous advantages in terms of not just obviously tens of millions of dollars to spend on marketing and producing the films, but also they have access to, you know, every media outlet, every late night show. They can go anywhere and promote their projects. And if you're a conservative making a film, it's a different experience. I mean, we have not even had a mainstream critic from any mainstream publication review the film, even though it's a top 10 box office film 2 weeks in a row. And you know, but that's part of the challenge. You kind of know that going in. And it just means you have to be a little bit more, I guess, creative and innovative and efficient in your approach, which I think ultimately leads to a better product, I hope.
You have produced this with the Daily Wire, correct? Right,
yeah.
And so what gave you this idea? You've written tremendous books on this. You're a brilliant spokesman for what is normal morality, basically. You come under a vicious attack just because you stand up for biology. You stand up for the nuclear family. You come under incredible attack over this. And so what this movie does, and I think this is why it's important, you're not preaching here. You're using their idiocy to make them look like fools, correct?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And we knew that we didn't want to make a movie that just simply makes the argument where I'm sort of looking at the camera or getting other people to look at the camera and say, here's why the left is wrong about this. And there's value in that. I mean, I do that every day, podcast commentary, you know, there's a value in that kind of stuff that we do. But we wanted to try to approach this in a different way. Number one is entertainment, where it's actually an entertaining film, because you're not going to get your message across if nobody wants to watch the film. So you have to entertain them, and you got to kind of put that number one in your priority list in order to get the message across. And then in terms of the message, we wanted to, rather than have me explain why this stuff is bad, we wanted to have these DEI, these so-called anti-racist grifters, kind of expose themselves through their own, you know, embarrass themselves by their own ideology, and doing that by taking their ideas and kind of presenting them back to them, and kind of using their own ideas against them in a satirical way. And this film has been compared to, some people call it kind of a conservative Borat, which there are a lot of differences between this and Borat, but it is similar only in that I'm not arguing with them. Instead, I'm kind of playing a character who agrees with them, and we're sort of going down the rabbit hole together to see where these ideas lead. And you see by the end of the film that they lead to like pretty dark and terrible places, but also hilarious.
It is hilarious. By the way, excuse me, the film is Am I Racist? It's in theaters. It's there right now. It's a big hit. I want you to get tickets and check it out. You can go to amiracist.com, amiracist.com, and get all the information you need and get your ticket. It's a top 5 box office opening weekend. That is a big deal. Number 1 independent movie in America, 98% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. That's a cinema score. And, of course, you're being ignored by the so-called phony mainstream. But some of the clips that I've seen are just hilarious. You're in this room, you're wearing your getup and so forth, and you're asking who's the biggest racist, and some guy gets up and I've had enough of this and walked out. Can you give us a little bit of background about that scene?
Yeah, well, in the movie, I become a DEI consultant myself. I actually get certified through a website and I get a real, as real as it could be. I get a actual it's a certification as a DEI consultant, and I'm going to these DEI experts, and I'm listening to them, and I'm letting them guide me on my path. And by the end of it, eventually I talked to Robin DiAngelo, who's the author of White Fragility, kind of the godmother of this anti-racist.
Yeah, the worst.
The worst of worst, and I talked to her, and that interview. There are a lot of spoilers out there already. I don't want to spoil it, but that interview goes to a really wild place. And by the end of it, I'm holding my own DEI seminar with real people, and I'm taking them on these exercises to see how far kind of they'll go. And what we find by the end of that, again, I don't want to spoil it, but by the end of my seminar with these people, what I discover is that actually it's. When you start using these DEI concepts and white guilt and all this nonsense, it's really easy to manipulate people into doing immoral things, into acting in ways that they otherwise wouldn't. And we kind of see that on display. That's why I say by the end of the film, it gets kind of dark. We wanted it to, because although it's a comedy and it's funny, we want to show that this DEI stuff, it's not just silly. It's also really evil. And when people believe it, it leads to terrible things, which we're seeing all across our culture.
Now, are you still holding up in these theaters, or are they starting to pull you from a few theaters, or how does that work?
We're doing pretty well. We're going into our third week. We still are in hundreds and hundreds of theaters, and still in the top 10 box office. And of course, like I said, when you're in the box office, you kind of start to realize that now this is the big boys, and you've got Beetlejuice that had $100 million or something in its opening weekend, and that's that's the kind of stuff we have to compete with. But the good news is that there's a real audience. It's like, it turns out that over half the country is conservative, or at least they aren't liberal, and they exist, and they want to go to theaters, and they want to be entertained, and they've been totally neglected by Hollywood almost entirely for years now. And so even without all the big marketing budgets and all that stuff, that audience is there. And if you can reach them and just let them know the movie exists, they're there to support it. And, of course, we're not the only ones who've done that. Angel Studios, another example, have made great films and tapped into that audience too. And I hope the trend continues.
We're here with Matt Walsh. He is the chief muckety-muck of a fantastic new movie, Am I Racist? I want folks to understand how difficult it is to get a movie like this into movie theaters, and how important it is for people to see it, not only because of the substance and the entertainment, but because without the audience, they'll kill this as fast as they can. And it is a movie that you ought to see. You are definitely going to laugh, and you're going to laugh very hard. You can go to amiracist.com to get your tickets, to find out where the theaters are near you. This weekend's going to be perfect opportunity to go. And Matt Walsh, you're kind of a persona non grata on college and university campus like the rest of us, but they really know who you are. They see you coming 20 miles away. Isn't it so weird that in the United States of America, if you're defending basic Judeo-Christian values, science, biology, if you're defending those things, that suddenly you're the odd person out? Do we have Matt there? Let's give it a shot. Although I must say, I do like talking to myself. Not really. Matt, were you able to hear that question or no?
Yeah, I heard you.
All right.
And yeah, what I would say is very weird.
Oh, we got a bad connection. I'll tell you what we're going to do. Hang up, Matt, Mr. Producer. You guys try and connect up again, and we'll give you about 20 seconds to do that. But this is the problem, America. And this is the way totalitarian regimes work. It's not education, it's indoctrination. It's happening in colleges and universities across America. Conservatives don't get to speak. They don't get to have organizations. By the way, you see this happening with Jews now. You see this happening with ROTC on college campuses too. So those people who support, the vital underpinnings of a free society, we are viewed as the strange ones. Do we have Matt there now? All right, so we may not get Matt back. But I want you to check it out. It's Matt Walsh, Am I Racist? So, Matt, I guess my question is, just to underscore the point, so normalcy really is not welcome in the notion of a free academic environment, which of course is a lie, where you can debate these things, because you're kind of persona non grata, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think also, it's funny coming from the people that are calling us weird all the time, that they consider weird to be basic defenses of not just basic moral values, but also essential reality, like biological reality. That, in particular, in a school system environment, an academic environment, I mean, if basic truth and reality is not welcome, then education can't exist at all. And that's why we talk about conservative versus liberal, right versus left, and all of that is true. But I call it, it's more like team sanity versus team insanity. And that's really the way that the two sides break down now. And that's what we're defending. We're defending basic sanity and common sense, I think.
But don't you think the vast majority of Americans embrace what you call sanity? And it's really these self-appointed elites, whether it's in academia or media or entertainment and so forth. They're the ones who are truly perverse, not most of the rest of society. Or am I wrong about that?
I think you're 100% right. And in fact, in the movie, in Am I Racist, we try to show that, because we talk to the crazy DEI grifters and all that kind of stuff, Robin DiAngelo and so on. But then we also go and we talk to just normal people that go to a biker bar in the South, and then insult all white, middle class, working class people at the bar. And then we go down to the black community in New Orleans. And these are people outside of this kind of DEI bubble entirely. And we talk to them, and they're just normal. And even when you use words like systemic racism, or you ask, is America a racist country, to those people, white or black, they kind of look at you. It's like they don't even understand the question. It's an absurd question to ask, because of course the answer is no. America's not racist at all, and everything's fine. They don't think about race or racism all that much. It's not a big part of their lives. It's like that's what normal people, that's how their minds work, and that's why you need the left-wing grifters to come in and brainwash them. But the thing is, if you're outside of the brainwashing mechanisms, you didn't go to college, you're not in a corporate, Fortune 500 company, getting the HR seminars and all that. If you're outside of that completely, then you're kind of free of the brainwashing, and that's where you meet just the normal, sane people.
And normal, sane people. You'll find more normal, sane people outside of higher academia than within it. Isn't that the case? In other words, 2/3 of the nation don't graduate from a 4-year college. Those who do, some people don't even recognize their children in their thinking when they come out of these schools. These are truly brainwashing operations that, like in totalitarian regimes, you're not allowed to speak the obvious. You're not allowed to talk about what in fact is science. And so this is, and I think you've pointed this out in your writings and your speaking and your movies here, this is the downfall of a civil society, no?
Yeah, as you point out, especially in an academic environment. I mean, it should be a place where you go for clarity of thought. And I imagine you should come out of 4 years, especially of so-called higher education, with a clearer mind and better insight into the way the world works and the way people work and history and all of those things. But the way the left operates is it's the opposite of that. They want to obfuscate. They want to make you confused. And you notice that whether you're asking, like we did with the first movie, what is a woman, or you're talking about these race issues and you're talking to the left about it, they don't have an answer for any question that you ask them, honestly. It's much like Kamala Harris is their perfect kind of mascot who never has an answer for any question and just kind of rambles around it. Just their goal is to make whatever you ask them, they're not going to answer it, but they want to make you confused. They want to make the answer seem very confusing, and so that you'll throw up your hands and say, well, I don't understand this stuff. I just need you to tell me what to do. When in reality, for the answer to most things, it's actually pretty simple, and you don't need a PhD to understand most of these concepts.
There's nothing better than going to a movie that you're going to enjoy, and you know you're going to enjoy it. Get a bag of popcorn, sit in a movie theater, and watch it the good old-fashioned way. There's going to be a lot of rain in a lot of part of the country this weekend. Nothing better than sitting in a movie theater and watching this movie. Fantastic movie, Am I Racist? Go to amiracist.com. Get your tickets. You can see where the theaters are. Bring the family. I know you're really going to enjoy this, and particularly if you have a woke member of the family, you might want to bring them too. And we want to wish you, Matt Walsh, continued success. Keep up your great work.
Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. Thank you.
God bless you. I don't know if I've ever spoken to Matt before, maybe once before. This guy is really good. He's really good in my opinion. And these movies are crucially important as far as I'm concerned.